Hi there, and thank you for joining me for today's live reading of Brave Enough by Nicole Craig, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1, January 19th, 2024. Midas. Nova, I need an optimized path to get inside the school grounds, Midas shouted. He ducked as debris from the corner of the building showered into his scalp-cropped brown hair. Yeah, probably should be wearing his helmet, but he hated being able to see it on the outskirts of his vision. He'd take his chances. Parameters, the AI requested. The sound of helicopter rotors distracted him, getting louder by the second. Looking up, he stood with his back tight to the wall as it skimmed into view. It was a green helo, which meant it didn't belong to the men firing at him. The cavalry had arrived. Unfortunately, that meant he was likely to have a visitor he wasn't particularly interested in seeing right now. He just couldn't catch a break, could he? Ignoring the helo for now, he dared another look around the corner of the building, this time nearly losing a soulful brown eye to a chunk of the building's square edge shot out by a bullet. Fuck, he yelled, leaning tight to the building once more. Between the deafening thwop-thwop of the helicopter's blades and the echoes of close-range gunfire, he brought his watch up to his mouth to answer Nova's female voice. Consider distance from my location to the school, the most current grid layout of the city, stationary objects, and factor in time of day. Project movement of mobile targets based on precedent set with previous movements made, ignoring the helicopter directly above my coordinates, unless considering it as a possible distraction for the soldiers or as an escape route. Calculating. A voice tinged with an Afrikaans accent came out of nowhere, along with a rope that dropped from the belly of the helo. Too late to crash this party? Midas looked up and was saved from a reply, because a man had already flung himself through the bottom port, a dog strapped to his front. When the body hit the ground, the newcomer gave the rope a yank, and it retracted back up inside the helicopter, which then took off. He glanced over at the man, his fraternal twin, whom he hadn't seen in person in almost 6 months. Who invited you? Midas grumbled. The blonde flung his arms wide. No one invited me, bro. Heard there was a party, so here I am. He began unhooking the canine, a golden Egyptian street dog he'd rescued from Salem 2 years ago. She'd been a hot mess when he found her. Starving, mothering 2 pups, flea-ridden, and beaten by the men who used her as a guard dog at their warehouse, she'd imprinted on Nemo when he fed her a tube of peanut butter, and her devotion was absolute. Fashionably late and making an entrance, as always. Correct. Nemo's superhero smile and the wink of his baby blues gave a lightness to the mess he'd inserted himself into. I see Jim hasn't taken you to the surgeon yet to get that twitch in your eye fixed. Sometimes he wondered what the little pixie saw in his brother. Free of her safety harness, Scheherazade made short work of greeting Midas, standing on her hind legs, ears perked, and nosing his belt for treats. He gave her head a solid rubbing between the ears. Sorry, girl. No treats right now. Didn't know I'd be seeing you. The dog chuffed her disappointment, licked his hand as if to say, that's okay, and then moved to heel at Nemo's side. She loves me, ticks and all. Someone should give her a physical and a rabies shot and a free head shrinking session. Nah, Jim's fine. No one's playing doctor with her but me. Nemo looked around. Speaking of medical play, where's tuberculosis? Shouldn't he and his subby be helping you? Midas snorted, half in humor and half in disbelief at his brother's cheek. If Steele hears you calling him TB submissive, you're going to be on a leash, naked, with a red-hot ass, and tied to a pole in the Arctic Circle. That was oddly specific. Hey, but then at least I can tell Santa in person what I want for Christmas. Shaking his head, Midas muttered, You are so broken. After chancing a look around the corner of the building, the brothers returned fire on the men who had spotted them. Then Midas filled Nemo in on his teammates' whereabouts. TB and Steele got hung up about 3 blocks south. I've been relegated to scout because somebody decided to hook up with a cat burglar, get all respectable, and then abandon my ass to hang in the wind so that he could work with the enemy. 1, Jim says hello. 2, I will never be respectable. And 3, Mythos is not the enemy. We're on the same side. Nemo glanced at Midas. Thought for sure Waters would have replaced me by now. Kind of makes me all warm and fuzzy to know the boss thinks I'm irreplaceable. Nemo cleared his rifle from his shoulder. What's the situ? Midas pulled his desert-colored balaclava up over his face to study his brother. It was hard to believe they were twins, even fraternal ones. They truly looked next to nothing alike. Nemo stood just under 6 feet tall and weighed in at just under 200 pounds, looking the part of a footballer. Aside from his Captain America good looks, he was golden tan year round from being outside, covered in tattoos, and pierced everywhere. Rumor had it, he'd even pierced his dick, something that made Midas shudder over how painful that had to have been. Midas was his complete antithesis, pale from spending most of his time stuck in a computer lab, although lately he'd been leading more projects and getting outside more, tattoo and piercing free, and built like a rugby player. Nobody briefed you? Midas asked. His voice came out rougher than he'd intended, but his brother had that effect on him since his defection to Mythos. Nemo sighed. Calm down, Grasshopper, he cautioned. I know the basics. One of the Mythos compounds was attacked before it could be completely evacuated. Their guards were immobilized, and we're going in to find the last 5 kids and the teacher. I meant, why are we here and not there? He gestured at the gate compound down the street. Can't get there from here, Midas grunted. No clue who these fuckwitches are. Nova's working on scenarios. On cue, Nova came online. I have calculated 5 possible routes to the compound, organized from shortest to longest distance of travel. It's fucking 3 blocks, Nemo muttered. We can see it from here. Midas rolled his eyes. Yes, but can you see if there are more shitweasels lying in wait? No, you can't. So we look at options. He dipped out around the corner and a hail of bullets hit the edge of the building, a chip hitting him in the face and scratching him under the eye. Fuck this noise. I'm so done with this bullshit. Nova, he barked, reassess and reprioritize the list in descending order of threat level. Calculating. After 2 seconds, the AI returned. The least level of threat is to continue on the east 3 blocks, then alternate 1 block north and 1 block east for 1/2 mile. Make your way to the river, then use the tributary to access the compound. What the fuck? That means heading away from the target, Nemo murmured. Yeah, not what I was hoping for. He turned his attention back to the AI program. Nova, what is the estimated time of arrival to the compound with that trajectory? Using that route, it would take an estimated 19 hours and 42 minutes to access the compound. What the ever-loving fuck? Why so long? Nemo asked. There are an estimated 17 hostile targets, she continued. All scenarios using the combatants of Midas, Steel, and TB suggest that stealth and patience are the prudent option. This includes waiting for nightfall to access the grounds. Nemo grabbed Midas's wrist and spoke into the watch face. Add Nemo in with those combatants. Great, Midas muttered. That'll increase the time frame. With a gentle shove to Nemo's shoulder, he moved his twin over. Waiting for nightfall is not an option, Nova. Reassess for alternative ingress. Query. Alternative? Ways we can enter the property that are not normal. Things other than doors, windows, over the walls, or other ways that are obvious entries for a human. Speed is of optimum importance. Understood. Calculating. Frowning, Nemo smacked him on the shoulder. Why the rush? The people in the compound have been cut off for 4 days. There are kids in there. We need to have the least amount of risk. I don't like it, but they can make it 1 more day. No, they can't, Midas corrected him. No water, no electricity, no clue about food given the extensive damage to the buildings. 5 kids under the age of around 10. The only ones left were an elderly teacher and the last Mythos guard. At his last report, he was bleeding out and knew he wouldn't make it in time to save him. And he said the teacher was unconscious. That was 2 days ago, and he hasn't answered a call since. They can't afford 19 minutes, let alone 19 hours. This doesn't make any sense. What the hell would these guys want with 5 orphans and a nun? Nemo wondered. Did they capture any of them? Yeah, another teacher. We found her about 6 hours ago. Wasn't pretty. No sign of the children. Fuckers, Nemo whispered under his breath. They were quiet for a moment. Nemo uttered another expletive. They've got to be Saliera brethren. Nothing else makes any sense, Midas replied. The kids aren't orphans of any political significance, and the facility isn't government run. But it doesn't make sense, Nemo said. How did they know where the compound was? And why would they want the girls back, given their paradigm of sacrificing all the females in the line? There's got to be a better way to staff their minds than recapturing kids we took back from them. The AI's voice interrupted their discussion. I have managed to find an alternative route, but it will be a difficult entry. With a snort, Midas shook his head. When isn't it, Nova? On November 7th, you made an uninterrupted ingress. It was a figure of speech, Nova. It meant it's always difficult. Nemo grinned. She needs more tweaking. That sounds so wrong, Midas sighed. Sarcasm isn't easy for a machine. It's not easy for a lot of humans either. Midas redirected the conversation. What's the plan, Nova? Along the eastern wall, approximately 25 yards from the northern corner, there is a drainage gate. It is large enough that the average adult human can move through it if they crawl. Entering through this tunnel will allow combatants to enter without detection, as all opposing forces appear to be at the south end of the compound, guarding the front gate. He heard Nemo groan. Better not be full of sewage. Midas grinned. Not the first time you've crawled through shit to get somewhere. Yeah, but that was when I was in a hurry to get out. I never would have done it to get inside somewhere. You love this shit. Pun intended. You're not happy unless you're getting dirty. I just hope demons got enough penicillin for everybody. A finger poked Midas in the chest, then gestured to Scheherazade. If my girl here gets sick, I'm kicking the shit out of you. The dog barked, as if adding her agreement. Nova, please tell all combatants to meet at the drainage tunnel along the south wall and tell Cerberus we need a distraction in order to get there. Something to keep the gatekeepers busy. Copy that, Midas. The two men waited in silence. The dog sat on alert at Nemo's heel. After a few minutes, a new male voice dropped into the channel. Prepare for the boom. Fucking Cerberus, why are we always preparing for shit? Just do it already, Nemo mumbled to himself. Still not getting along with Jim's ex? Figured you two would be bros by now. Using his pocket scope, Nemo got down on his knee and peered around the corner of the building as delicately as he could. He's not her ex. Yes, we've hugged our shit out, metaphorically speaking, because I'm not into threesomes. And no, we're not bros. We're never going to be bros. I already have a brother, one I'm quite fond of, Nemo admitted, one that I miss, even if he is pissed at me. Darting a look to his right, Midas saw that while Nemo's focus was on the gate down the street in front of them, his tight posture and expression said he meant what he was saying. Immediately, Midas felt bad for sniping at him and used the man's given name to show he was sorry. Sawyer, nothing needs to be said, Cash. Nemo returned the respect as he moved back to safety and glanced over at his twin. You're my brother. I love you. I know you love me too, even if I'm a pain in your ass. He gave Midas a smack on the back of his shoulder. Now focus, my young Padawan. If I'm not mistaken, our three-headed dog friend is about to make things go click, click, boom in a most delightful way. There was a hollow sound, like a firework coming out of a mortar. Mouth agape, Midas couldn't believe what he was seeing. A canister flew from somewhere behind and to the left, trailing rainbow-colored smoke. When it finally hit the ground, the canister rolled until it hit the gate, but it didn't explode. It merely lay on the ground, puffing out multicolored mist. After a minute or so, it stopped smoking. Foolishly, one of the younger soldiers stepped forward and picked it up off the ground to look it over. Still, nothing happened. Several of the guards gathered a little closer. Finally, there was a loud pop as the flashbang grenade canister exploded. The young man who had been holding the canister clutched his face and dropped to the ground in agony. The sound of 5 muted thumps was followed by 5 flying objects toward the gate. As soon as the objects landed, Nemo grabbed Midas by the arm and hauled him toward the opposite corner of the building. Time to go. A chain of 5 loud explosions sounded, followed by screams from some of the men at the gate. Using the distraction, the 2 men and the dog took off, ran 3 blocks east, then turned left and ran for what was the northeast corner of the compound. When they hit the southeast corner, Midas spared a quick look at the main gate, noticing it was still shrouded in smoke and chaos from the modified grenades, then put all his focus back on his brother and the dog, who were easily 50 yards ahead of him. Nemo, that fucker, was still faster than fast. TB and Steele were nowhere to be seen. Midas tapped his watch to call out to them on their comms. TB, where are you? TB came over the speaker. I'm a little busy here. Well, get unbusy. We need you at the northeast corner of the compound. What's your ETA? Hopefully, less than 10 minutes. We managed to grab one of the soldiers. We're securing him now, and Medusa is coming to collect him. Go ahead. We'll catch up shortly. Copy that. Midas turned to his brother. Ready? Let's get dirty, Nemo replied. Since he didn't speak German, the typical language for canines, Nemo trained her in his native tongue of Afrikaans. Scheherazade, lady pas. Instantly, the dog's whole demeanor changed. She'd made huge strides since being rescued. She went from a tongue-lolling, ears-perking goofball to a working dog in the span of 4 words uttered. Nose twitching, she headed into the tunnel, her small frame easily fitting inside the clearance. Nemo followed her, able to fit through if he crawled on his hands and knees. Midas was pretty much reduced to crawling on his belly, given his larger frame. Thank goodness it's dry, Nemo called over his shoulder. Yeah, it doesn't look like anything has come through here in ages. Pretty much clean as the day it was built. Bet Mythos cleaned it and rerouted the drainage to use this for a possible escape route. He switched gears. Nova, is the end of the pipe clear of targets? Confirmed. All heat signatures are around the main gate, but there are a few in buildings on the main thoroughfare of the compound's western side. It took just a few minutes to traverse the pipeway. However, as they approached the end of the tunnel, Nova stopped them. Correction, Midas. Some of the targets from outside have joined those who were inside the gate. They are doing emergency triage on those affected by Cerberus's diversion. Scheherazade, stop, Nemo commanded. Luck, or more likely smart thinking on the part of Mythos, was with them. Blocking the opening of the drainage pipe was a rusted-out pickup truck parked near a garden shed. Neither looked like they had been used in some time, but Midas knew that with Mythos, looks were often deceiving. The pickup might look like shit, but it would run like a brand new machine. The sagging roof and peeling paint of the shed were camouflage for whatever was actually inside. Mythos was more than adept at hiding what they didn't want people to see. A sudden sound of gunfire broke into his thoughts. Another explosion, bigger this time, rocked the ground, and the sound of collapsing concrete reached them. Cerberus piped into the channel. That was not me, gentlemen. Well, that's not good, Nemo quipped. Quickly yanking his balaclava into position, then lowering his goggles, Midas watched as smoke poured out of a nearby building. His brother did the same, then pulled a specialized dog version from his belt, putting them on Scheherazade. The building they hit is not the one we've been told is our target. That tells me they don't know where to look. We don't have long before they hit it by simple guesswork. Nemo and I are headed in. TB and Steele, you'll have to catch up when you can.